In this lecture, we will discuss another very important Indian writer, and the name of that writer is Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh was born in 1956 and he is still alive. First of all, we will discuss some important facts about Amitav Ghosh's life and his style of writing, and then we will talk about the various novels written by Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh was born in Kolkata, which you know is the capital of Bengal. And at present, Amitav Ghosh, he lives in America because later on he shifted to America. And Amitav Ghosh, he writes a special types of novels which are called historical novels. And he writes historical fiction. Fiction means anything which is based on imagination. No doubt, Amitav Ghosh, he takes inspiration or takes the story of his novels from history, but he presents them in a creative way. So he writes historical fiction like Sir Walter Scott. You know that Sir Walter Scott, he belongs to the Romantic age, and Sir Walter Scott is considered the father of a historical novel. Amitav Ghosh, he founded the magazine History Times along with a very famous historian, Ram Gua. He did his PhD in social anthropology. So you must remember, he did his PhD in social anthropology. Anthropology, do you know? Study of culture, study of human beings, that is called anthropology. And what is more important about Amitav Ghosh is that he took his novel back. The name of that novel is Glass Palace, from Commonwealth Writers' Prize as a reward against the term Commonwealth. Actually, earlier, one prize was given to the writers belonging to Commonwealth countries. Now, Commonwealth countries were the countries which used to be Britain's colony. जो इंग्लैंड के गुलाम देश थे उन्हें कॉमनवेल्थ कंट्रीज कहा जाता था. And even Commonwealth Games are organized. And earlier, one prize in the field of literature was given to the writers belonging to Commonwealth countries, that was called Commonwealth Writers' Prize. So Amitav Ghosh, he was not happy with the word Commonwealth, and that's why he took his novel back from this prize. That's very important fact you must remember. And do you know, later on, Salman Rushdie, who belongs to the postmodern period, he wrote one essay, and the name of that essay is Commonwealth Literature Does Not Exist. So you must remember these two important facts. Now we will talk about some of the prizes won by Amitav Ghosh. Amitav Ghosh, he won Sahitya Academy Award for his novel The Shadow Lines in 1989. He also won Padma Shri in 2007. And Amitav Ghosh became the first Indian writer writing English to win Gyanpith Award in 2018. So Amitav Ghosh is the first Indian writer writing in English to win this prize, Gyanpith Award in 2018. And this Gyanpith Award was 54th. Recently, Amitav Ghosh has won Erasmus Prize in 2024. So you must remember these four important prizes won by Amitav Ghosh. Now we will talk about the various novels written by Amitav Ghosh. The first novel written by Amitav Ghosh is The Circle of Reason. That is the first novel written by him. As the title indicates, the reason. So through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he criticizes that is called logical thinking or reasoning power. He criticizes. This novel is divided into three parts. The name of the first part is Sattva, which is a Sanskrit word. Its English meaning is reason. Second is Rajas, which is a Sanskrit word. Its meaning is passion. And Tamas, which is the meaning is death. So through these three parts, he conveys the message that excess of everything is bad. हर किसी की अति बहुत खतरनाक होती है. So there's a character here whose name is Nachiket, whose uncle, he believed in reasoning power, and that's why he had passion for reasoning. वो reasoning के लिए passion थी उसके मन में, and as a result of that passion, Nachiket's uncle and his entire family is murdered. So that's the reason. That's why the name of the first part is reason. When reason becomes passion, so it results into death. It is a picarous novel. Picarous novel, picarous novel is also called a journey novel, in which the central character keeps on moving from one person to another. As it happens in this novel, that the blame of murder of Nachiket's uncle falls on Nachiket, and that's where Nachiket he keeps on running from one place to another. So it is a picarous novel. And the central character of this novel is an orphan, Nachiket, who lives with his uncle and aunt. But the entire family, his uncle, his aunt, they are killed in a bomb attack. And then later on, that charge falls on Nachiket. And that's when Nachiket he keeps on moving from one place to another. Then from Calcutta, he goes to Goa, and then from Goa to an imaginary place, Al Gazaria, and from then Al Gazaria to Algeria. He keeps on moving from one place to another. The nickname of Nachiket is Alu. Why? Because his head is like a potato. Now his uncle, he wanted to write a book, and the name of that book is Life of Passion. There are two important characters. One is Balaram Bose, who is Nachiket's uncle, and Jyoti Das, who is the police inspector, who is chasing Nachiket from one place to another. That's the story of this novel, The Circle of Reason. The next novel written by Amitav Ghosh is The Shadow Lines, which was published in 1989. And the title of this novel has been taken from a modern British writer, Joseph Conrad's book. And the name of that book is Shadow Lines. For this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he won the Sahitya Academy Award in 1989. This novel is set in three places: Dhaka, Bengal, and London. Actually, this novel starts in London, then the story is told, then story shifts to Bengal, and then Bengal to Dhaka. This novel is divided into two parts. First is going away, and the second is coming home. Going away means going to Britain, going to London, and then coming back to India. What is the theme of this novel? The theme of this novel is that the boundaries don't matter. What matters are the relations. So it is you can consider a type of partition novel because it talks about India and Bangladesh. There's a boundary which separates India and Bangladesh. So the message is that these boundaries don't matter. What matter are the relations. There are so many movements which are mentioned in this novel. For example, this novel is set against Swadesi movement, means when there was boycott of foreign things, that is called Swadesi movement. Then World War II, and then India, there was a partition of India. And after the partition of India, communal riots took place in Dhaka and Kolkata in 1963 and 1964. Communal riots means riots between Hindus and Muslims. Now I will talk about some of the important characters and the plot line of this novel in brief. So the most important character in this novel is Tridib, who is the narrator's uncle. Then we have a Thamma, who is the narrator's grandmother, and Jetha Moshai, who is Thamma's uncle. These are the three important characters of this novel. Tridib and Thamma, they come back from England. Actually, Thamma has an uncle whose name is Jetha Moshai. Jetha Moshai, he lives in Dhaka in Bangladesh. So Thamma, she decides to bring her uncle back to India, to Bengal. And that's why Thamma, Tridib, there's another character, May. So many characters, they visit Dhaka in order to bring Jetha Moshai back to India, back to Bengal. But what happens that in Dhaka starts the communal riots in 1963, 1964. And during these communal riots, both Jetha Moshai and Tridib, they die. That's the story of this novel, The Shadow Lines. There are some more characters also. One is Maya Devi. Who is Maya Devi? She is Thamma's younger sister and Tridib's mother. We have Ila, who is the narrator's cousin. and who later on marries a Britisher, Nick. May Price, who is Nick's sister, whom Tridib loves. Actually, Tridib in Dhaka, he loses his life in order to save May Price. There's another character, Queen Victoria, who is Ila's mother. So these are the characters, but the first three characters are really very important. Next novel is Calcutta Chromosome. As the title indicates, chromosome. So it is a science novel, because through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the discovery of a reason of malaria. So the subtitle of this novel is a novel of fevers. Do you know that malaria causes fever? Then we have delirium. Delirium means the state of confusion, that is called delirium, and discovery. So what happens that they are spread malaria, and then so many people, they try to find out the cause of malaria, that is called delirium, state of confusion, and at last the cause is found out, that is called discovery. And do you know who discovered the cause of malaria? It was an illiterate woman named Mangala who discovered the cause of malaria. So it is a scientific novel, talks about the discovery of the cause of malaria. And this novel is based on the real incident. It is based on Sir Ronald Ross memoirs. Memoirs, do you know? Anything which is based on a person's memories. And Sir Ronald Ross, he was given Nobel Prize for discovering the cause of malaria. Actually, it was not Sir Ronald Ross who discovered the cause of malaria. Actually, it was an illiterate woman, Mangala, who discovered the cause of malaria, but she didn't know the process of getting patent. And Sir Ronald Ross, he took benefit of that illiterate woman, and he declared that he has discovered the cause of malaria. So who are the important characters? Ronald Ross, who is the scientist who discovered malaria parasite. It is a myth that he discovered the cause of malaria. And there another character is Murugan, who is the scientist who works on Ronald Ross. And we have the Mangala, who is the real woman who discovers malaria. Then there's Antar. Antar is a detective. Actually, he is trying to find out Murugan's disappearance, because Murugan, he was working on Ronald Ross, and Murugan comes to know that the cause of malaria was not discovered by Ronald Ross. But what happens that one day Murugan disappears. He is kidnapped. So Antar, who is a detective, so he's trying to find out Murugan's whereabouts. Next novel is The Glass Palace. It is a historical novel, and through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the bad effect of imperialism. Imperialism means colonialism, means making other countries slave, or making other countries colony. That is called imperialism. So the bad effect of imperialism can be seen in India also, when the Britishers, they ruled over India for many years. Now, the bad effect of imperialism or colonialism is presented through Burma, because Burma is attacked by British in 1885, and as a result of this attack, the king and queen of Burma, they are forced to leave Burma and to settle in India in a village. So important characters are King Thibaw, who is the king of Burma, Queen Supayalat, who is King Thibaw's wife. So when Britishers, they occupy Burma, so both the king and the queen, they leave Burma and they settle in a village in India. There is a central character of this novel is Raj Kumar, who is an orphan Indian boy who lives in America. Sorry, who lives in Burma. So when Burma is occupied by the British, so Raj Kumar, he deals in timber, लकड़ी का काम करता है, and he becomes a rich man. And the glass palace of the title stands for the palace of King Thibaw. उसके महल की तरफ संकेत करता है. So Rajkumar, he becomes very rich. He also marries this Dolly, who is Queen Supalat's maid servant. But what happens that Rajkumar, no doubt, he works very hard. He earns a lot of money. But what happens that after some years, Japan attacks Burma. So when Japan attacks Burma, so Rajkumar he loses his all wealth. So that's the plot line of this novel, The Glass Palace. And through this novel, Amitav Ghosh he talks about the bad effect of imperialism. Next novel written by Amitav Ghosh is The Hungry Tide. This novel is set in Sundarbans. Sundarbans, they are situated in Bengal, near the Bay of Bengal. And this novel is divided into two sections, ebb and the flood. Flood, do you know? Jovo means when the waves comes forward, and ebb means when the waves withdraw. That is called bhata or ebb. And through this novel, Amitabh Ghosh, he talks about the destruction caused by the waves because so many people they live near Sundarbans, and when there's a flood, so the people they lose their houses, and many people they even lose their life. Through this novel, Amitabh Ghosh he also talks about one historical incident, and that is Morit Janpi massacre. Massacre means killing of a large number of people in 1978 and 1979. Important characters are four. The central character of this novel is Piali Roy, who belongs to America. She lives in America, but basically she is from India. She visits Sundarbans in order to discover a rare dolphin. Dolphin ढूंढने आती है ये. So she comes there. Another character is Fakir, who is an illiterate fisherman. So when Pioli Roy she comes to Sundarbans, so she falls in the sea where there are so many crocodiles. So it is Fakir who saves Piali Roy from the crocodiles, and later on Fakir he becomes her guide. And towards the end of this novel, there is a flood in Sundarbans, and Fakir he sacrificed his life in order to save Pioli Roy. Piali Roy को बचाने में अपनी life वो sacrifice कर देते हैं. And towards the end of this novel, Piali Roy she decides to stay at Sundarbans. Another character is Kanai Dutt, who is a businessman from Delhi. He has come to Sundarbans. Why? In order to see his aunt Nilima Bose after the death of his uncle Nirmal Bose. So Nirmal Bose he dies, and then Kanai Dutt he comes from Delhi. He visits Sundarbans in order to see his aunt Nilima Bose. And there, Kanai Dutt and Piali Roy they come together. They see each other. So that's the story of this novel, The Hungry Tide. Now I will talk about one trilogy written by Amitav Ghosh. Trilogy, do you know? Trilogy means a series of three novels that is called trilogy. It is called Ibis trilogy because Ibis is the name of the ship. So that is the Ibis trilogy. Ibis is the name of the ship. And these three novels, they are set in 1830s during the Vietnam War, which is also known as the Opium War. These three novels are Sea of Poppies, River of Smoke, and Flood of Fire. So these three novels, they form the Ibis trilogy. We will talk about these three novels one by one. First of all, we have Sea of Poppies, which was published in 2008. Why this novel is important? Because this novel was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2008. And through this novel, Sea of Poppies, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the production of opium in Bihar. In the second novel, he talks about the trade of opium in China. And in the third novel, he talks about Opium War, which was fought between the Britishers and the Chinese people. This novel has a number of themes such as colonialism. This novel shows the bad effect of colonialism, means exploitation of the Indians by the Britishers. Then we have untouchability, another theme. Sati Pratha, you know that when a woman was forced to die along with her husband. And Ibis of the title or Ibis ship is going to Mauritius, you must remember. Now we will discuss some characters and the story of this novel, Sea of Poppies in brief. Central character is Diti, and her husband dies, and she is forced to die along with her husband. But there's one person whose name is Kalua. He saves Diti and Diti and Kalwa, they runs away. Kalwa is an untouchable. Now the complete family is up after Diti and Kalwa. So in order to escape the family, Diti and Kalwa, they sign a contract in order to go to Mauritius. So they board the ship Ibis. उसके ऊपर वो ship पे चले जाते हैं. On the ship, Diti is misbehaved. Somebody tried to rape her, but Kalwa, he protects Diti, and later on Kalwa, he runs away along with two other person that I will discuss. Next is Kabutri, which is Diti's daughter by her first husband. Then we have a Benjamin Burnham, who is a cruel Britisher. Benjamin Burnham is a Britisher who exploits the Indians. There's a wonderful example of exploitation, because there is one Jamindar landlord whose name is Neil Ratan Haldar. So Burnham, he forces Neil Ratan Haldar to sell his land to him so that he may grow opium there. But Neil Ratan Haldar, he refuses to sell his land because so many people, they depend upon his land, and that's why Neil Ratan Haldar is arrested on false charges. He is humiliated a lot, and later on he is sent to Mauritius in order to work there. Then we have Afat, who is a criminal, and Neil Ratan Haldar, he comes across Afat in the prison. Another character is Zachary Reed. Who is Zachary Reed? He is an American. He is the captain of the ship. And what happens towards the end of this novel, that the three characters, Kalwa, Neil Ratan Haldar, and Afat, they run away. So that's the story of this novel, Sea of Poppies. Next novel written by Amitav Ghosh is River of Smoke. This novel is set in Canton, Fenghui town. Canton is a area in China in 1838. And through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about opium trade in China. Now, when this novel starts, three ships are seen on the sea. One is Anahita, who is owning Behram. Then we have a Red Root, who is owned by Fitcher, Penrose, and Ibis. These three ships are seen. So we will come across the characters from Sea of Poppies also. Central character of this novel is Bahram Modi, who is a Parsi merchant, and he is discovered to be Afat's father. Bahram Modi, he deals in opium, and that's why he visited China many times in order to sell opium. So there he falls in love with a Chinese woman, and as a result of their love affair, Afat is born. And now in this novel, Bahram Modi, he is coming to China in order to sell opium, and he has opium in large quantity because Bahram Modi's father-in-law has died, and that's why the entire business has gone to his brother-in-laws. And that's why Bahram Modi, he is coming to China in order to sell opium. But when he visits China, so the war starts between the Chinese and the Britishers. That is called Opium War. And in this way, Bahram Modi, he loses all his wealth. He also loses his ship, and he dies. Another character is Fitcher Penrose, which is seen on the ship Red Root. Why? Because he is coming to China in order to collect rare plants. Along with Fitcher Penrose, we have a girl also whose name is Paulette Lambert, who is the daughter of a French botanist. So that's the story of this novel, River of Smoke, in which Bahram Modi, towards the end of this novel, he dies, and he also loses his money and the ship. Another novel is Flood of Fire, which is the third part of Ibis trilogy. This novel is set in 1839 to 1841. And through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the starting of first opium war between China and Britain. The important characters of this novel are Kesari Singh, who is Diti's brother. Diti, you know, the character from the first novel, Sea of Poppies. So Diti runs away with the Kalwa, an untouchable, and that's why Diti's brother feels insulted, and that's why in order to avoid the society, he enlists himself, अपना नाम लिखवा देता है, into the British army. Next is Jachri Reed, who is a black American who also start opium business. Now, in this novel, we come to know a little bit about Jachri Reed. We come to know that he basically belonged to America. He had a dark color. That's why he's called Black American. But Benjamin Burnham's wife, she fell in love with Jachri Reed, and later on, Jachri Reed he blackmails Benjamin's wife and Benjamin also, and gets a lot of money, and then he starts the business of opium. But he also fails in this business because the opium war starts between the Chinese and the Britishers. Next is Shireen Modi. Who is Shireen Modi? She is Bahram Modi's wife. And when Bahram Modi dies, so Shireen Modi, she comes to know that there is a Bahram Modi's son, and the name of that son is Afat. So she also visits China. Why? In order to find out her husband's illegitimate son. Next novel is Gun Island, which was published in 2019. It is the not recent novel. Recent novel is ki Jungle Nama hai. That is not the recent novel. Through this novel, Gun Island, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about climate change, means he talks about environmental pollution and migration. Migration means the moving of people from India to foreign cities. Now, what is the plot line of this novel? That this novel, the central character of this novel is a bookseller. Actually, he likes reading books. So, in one book, he comes to know about a story. The story is that story belongs to the 17th century myth. Actually, in the 17th century, in the story, it was written that in the 17th century, there was a merchant whose name was Banduki Sadagar. That was the name of that merchant. And he was punished by Mansa Devi. Mansa Devi, do you know? Goddess of snakes. So Mansa Devi, he punished Banduki Sadagar. So the book seller, he is attracted by this story and he wants to justify whether this story is real or not. And that's why the bookseller, he visits India, he visits Sundarbans, where he comes across Piali Roy, जो हमने डिस्कस किया था, वो भी उसको वहां मिलती है हंगरी टाइड में. Now he wants to know that how did the bookseller get the name Banduki Sadagar. And then he comes to the conclusion, after doing a lot of research, he comes to the conclusion that the merchant, actually he visited Venice. The ancient name of Venice had been All Bandukia. So he comes to the conclusion that that merchant was not punished by Mansa Devi, the goddess of snakes. Actually, that merchant, he visited Venice, whose real name is All Bandukia. We have a two central character. One is Dinanath Dutt, who is the rare book dealer who belongs to America, and then is another character is a girl whose name is Sintha. So she is Dinanath Dutt's friend, and she helps Dinanath Dutt a lot in his studies. So Sintha is also doing research on the role of Venice in medieval spice trade from India. Next novel is Jungle Nama, which is the latest novel of Amitav Ghosh. It was published in 2021. This novel is written in poetry form, so it is a verse novel, and this novel is written in 24 syllabic couplets. Couplets, as you know, a stanza of 2 lines. And this novel, Jungle Nama, is actually a translation, actually is a adaptation of a Bengali story. So Bengali story has been adapted into English. And through this novel, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about a forest goddess whose name is Bon Bibi. Now we will talk about some of the important non-fictional works written by Amitav Ghosh. The first important non-fictional work is In an Antique Land. Antique means ancient and rare land. It is a travelogue. Travelogue, you know, which is based on somebody's travels. It is an ethnographical work. What is the meaning of ethnography? Study of cultures. So through this non-fictional work, Amitav Ghosh, he studies two cultures. It is divided into two parts. In the first part, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about his visit to two Egyptian villages in 1980. So he talks about his experiences here. And in the second narrative, Amitav Ghosh, he presents the history of the 12th century merchant whose name had been Abraham ben Reu and his two slaves. So he talks about this story in the second part. Next is Dancing in Cambodia and At Large in Burma. Actually, it is a collection of essays. It is a collection of 5 essays. These essays are Dancing of Cambodia, At Large in Burma, The Town by the Sea, Stories in Stone, and September 11. September 11, I think you can guess through this essay, he talks about attack on worldwide tower on 11th September. Now we will talk about 2 or 3 important essays of this collection. One is Dancing of Cambodia. Cambodia, is a country. And through this work, Amitav Ghosh, he shows the bad effect of France on Cambodia, because two people of Cambodia, they visit France, but when they come back, so they act like dictators. So that's why through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the bad effect of Western culture on Cambodia. So two great person from Cambodia, they visit France. One is King Sisowith, who visits France in 1906. Then there in the second time, Paul Plot, he visits France in 1950s. However, when these two great person, they come back from France, they become dictator, and they start totalitarian, means dictatorship in America, in London, sorry, in Kolkata or in Cambodia, not Kolkata and London, actually in Cambodia. Next essay is The Town by the Sea. And through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about his experiences during tsunami. Tsunami, it took place in 2004. And at that time, Amitav Ghosh was in Andaman and Nicobar Island. And you know that during tsunami, Andaman and Nicobar Island, they were highly affected. So he talks about his own experiences during tsunami in the Andaman and Nicobar. Next essay, September 11, as the title indicates. Through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the terrorist attack on America. Next work written by Amitav Ghosh is The Imam and the Indian. It is a collection of 18 essays. Some important essays are The Imam and the Indian. This question was raised in Master Cadre exam. Actually, the Imam stand for Muslim religion. And through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he compares the funeral processes of Indians and the Muslims. You know that the Indians, they cremate the body, and the Muslims, they bury the body. So there are arguments over the cremation process of Indian Muslims. And Amitav Ghosh, he finds the Indian tradition of final rites better than that of the Muslims. Next essay is The Ghat of the Only Word. Through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about a Kashmiri poet, Aga Shahid Ali. Next is An Egyptian in Baghdad. And actually, it is a diasporic essay. Diasporic essay means an essay which talks about the problems of the people living abroad. And through this essay, Amitav Ghosh, he conveys a wonderful theme that no doubt the people who visits abroad, they work really very hard, they earn a lot of money, and they send that money to back to their home country. But they never come back to enjoy the things they have created. So he talks about the hard work of the immigrant through this essay, An Egyptian in Baghdad. Next wonderful essay written by Amitav Ghosh is The Great Derangement. This question was also raised in Master Cadre exam. Subtitle of this essay is Climate Change and the Unthinkable. I think from the subtitle, you can indicate that through this work, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about environmental pollution, climate change. This essay is divided into 3 parts: stories, history, and politics. In the first part, stories, he talks about the modern literature's failure to talk about issues relating to environmental pollution. You know that in the modern period, few writers, they were writing their works about environmental crisis. And in the second part, Amitav Ghosh, he talks about the role of colonialism in environmental changes. Really, colonialism played a major role in environmental crisis. Why? Because the foreigners, they exploited not only the Indian people but also their resources, and that's why there's a problem of environmental there's problem of environment in India. In the third part, he talks about the role of capitalism and imperialism in climate crisis, how capitalism was also responsible because so many factories were set up, and those factories also produced a lot of carbon dioxide and produced a lot of environmental problem. Some other non-fictional works of Amitav Ghosh are Countdown and Incendiary Circumstances, means very unfavorable circumstances. That is a collection of essay. That's all about Amitav Ghosh. So I hope that you will be able to understand this lecture.